I get unmotivated. I don't want to do anything. I just want to lay on the couch and zone out.
I get really discouraged.
Things start feeling really massive. Things start feeling really out of my control.
I start to get restless, and then I get angry or short-tempered. Well, mainly just angry.
I'd start not treating people the best.
And that's not healthy for anyone.
Hey, hello. Welcome back to episode 3 of Stir It Up. Woo! So, you might notice something today. We are all wearing the same, what do you call it, drip? No, just kidding. We're all wearing the same
I'd
clothes.
be bussing in this drip.
What if they don't speak English?
Stir It Up merch is out.
Stir It Up merch is now available.
Yes.
Wherever
For
merch is
whoever
sold.
has internet access.
Internet access. I think it's worldwide shipping. Don't quote me. Probably.
Everywhere.
Our friend Ashley.
Yeah. Our friend Ashley from Texas. She has this awesome Etsy shop called Sleepy Hollow & Co. And they have Stirred Up merch. She also has other cool stuff, but, we're here to...
It's true.
We're here to rep.
Represent.
We're here to support.
I am once again asking for your support.
I have
Yes.
to convince her to make Star Wars merch, but
In the...
eventually,
Maybe she'll get some
That's
requests.
cool. I didn't know you had someone within. I thought you
it's
just
a real person.
you went there, didn't you?
It's embroidered. That's why it's so nice.
And what's super cool, I've been wearing it a lot the past month, and I was inside of a restaurant, and this lady came up to me and she was like, "So you got to tell me what's stirred up." And I was like, and then I had a chance to talk to her about it, so it was kind of cool. So wear it,
That's pretty cool.
wear it to your Saturday night concert or whatever time you want to stay warm.
Conversation starter.
Literally every time.
No, a lot of people are like, "You guys started making merch?" I was like, "Yeah,"
Aww.
and they're like, they liked it.
We had to test it first to make
Well,
sure that
yeah,
it was
we had to
worthy of selling.
We had to make
you.
sure that everyone would want to buy it or want to wear it.
Support a small business. Profits don't go to us; they go to the small business.
And they're not that expensive either. It's like
They're really
$30,
not.
I think.
Yeah,
Something like that.
and they're good quality too.
Yeah, totally.
Super cozy.
So
Anyways, we are super excited about 2023. We have a lot going on. Well, we've had a lot going on the past couple months.
yeah.
Between we'll flash this. It'll be right on your screen right now. We had our play in October. That was a lot of fun. We did a lot of animation. We did a lot of set design. All kinds of really fun things there. DM us if you are interested about that. We did our Christmas event here at the church. Multiple Christmas events.
Yeah.
And then we did the New Year's celebration. And then I just got back from Prescott Conference. And then we celebrated last year the 1-year anniversary of our new building. So
Feels like it's
been
been
a
longer.
lot.
it does.
I think the last episode we filmed, they were building the set in the sanctuary for
yes.
our play.
It's true.
They were.
Anyways.
That's
It
true.
was sick,
Now today it's raining. So
That's so
it's actually
epic.
really
but I
nice
wasn't.
outside.
I wasn't there, which was a bummer.
But
That's
he
right.
edited.
Yeah, and he was in Australia, and then Natalie got snowed in
oh my
in
gosh.
New York.
The second worst
Yeah.
snowstorm in November recorded in Buffalo, New York.
Yeah. So
It's been busy.
it's been a busy couple months, but we're
Good.
back.
Good stuff.
We're ready.
And we're ready to
excited.
hop into our 2023 theme for the year.
Yes, at our church we are celebrating 50 years, proclaiming and celebrating the good news. So we're very excited about that. We'll probably be featuring little things about that throughout the year. You can definitely stay tuned into the Door Church's social accounts for anything special for that. But we're excited. We've been working on that campaign. We're going to be working on a documentary. So all kinds of fun things are coming down the road.
Wait,
for
we're
us.
doing a documentary?
Yeah, we do every year.
Conference.
Yeah.
Well, I know for conference, but are we doing a documentary for the 50 years?
That's going to be inspired by the 50 years.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
it's 2 in 1.
2 in 1. So get
Very
ready.
nice.
So it's very exciting. But all of that might sound crazy to you, right? That sounds like a lot of stuff. So in order to keep our lives balanced and our hearts balanced and our creative minds balanced,
And we don't lose it.
and we don't lose it, today we're going to be talking about
Creative rest.
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 Creative rest.
Rest. Sleep.
Have you heard-
creative sleep? Like, is this like
Creative napping. I love to nap when I'm at work.
Okay. Just kidding.
There's the song by the Grey Havens called Rest. I forgot about that one.
Ooh.
We'll have to
I don't
link
know
it
who
or
that is,
something.
but-
Yeah. In the
It's a
description.
good one.
Yeah.
But yeah, creative rest, man. It's so important, especially after we come out of a busy time like
Right.
we've just come out of. Oftentimes, like I'm sure this is how it feels at other churches too, but it feels like we have probably like 3 really busy months, and then you get like 2 months of lighter stuff, and then 3 really
Right.
busy months again.
Right.
More or less, it goes in cycles. But when you're in the middle of the really busy time or towards the end of it, it can just be really exhausting and overwhelming.
Yeah. Lots sleepless time.
Yeah.
Etc.
Yeah.
So yeah, we kind of created a scenario for you to help you kind of envision this idea. Maybe this is you, maybe it isn't. Maybe you've protected yourself from this, maybe you haven't, right? Maybe you can find yourself somewhere in this. You're creative in your church, you manage social media, you set up the live stream, you photograph every event, you're constantly working on flyers. You are a member of your worship team, perhaps, and you're also in the skit team. And while you're doing all of these things, you happen to be having a full-time job, and you're trying to keep up with healthy relationships with your friends and family, as well as sit in a chair and get fed by the Holy Spirit at the same time. You haven't really been able to do that, and you often feel unappreciated, unrecognized, and you find yourself short-tempered with the people that you work with, the volunteers or the people under you or next to you or wherever that might be. And one more text from your pastor about something that you did wrong or messed up on might be the end of your limits. Is this you? Maybe it's not. Maybe it is.
It has been me. I'm just
But
out
I
myself.
felt convicted about this. So yeah, I was like, I can fully.
I think we wrote this
been me
about
before.
ourselves.
Probably. I mean, the last episode was like outing ourselves, so we're just on that trend right now.
We're outing
Apparently.
ourselves again.
Yeah, exactly.
For the second time.
For the second time. So, guys, how can we tell that we personally get burned out? I'll start, but maybe you guys can pinpoint off of this. One thing that I often find when I'm getting burned out, and this is something to recognize, is it's super valuable to learn about yourself because it's how you can maintain like a healthy life and a healthy creative life. But for me is that I start to struggle to find solutions. And what I mean by this is things start feeling really massive. Things start feeling really out of my control. Last week I was super inspired by Pastor Greg Mitchell. He was in his first sermon on Monday of the conference. He said, quite oftentimes you measure the size of God based on your current circumstance. And what I was like, that's a powerful statement because I've definitely done that many times in my life. But then I had to ask myself, okay, well, how do you get to this place, right? How do you get to this place where your problems start seeming bigger than God, or that's how you determine and measure God? How do you get to that place? And so I think a lot of it can be connected to this because you can protect your mind and protect your heart and potentially not get to that place where you're measuring God by your circumstances. So I find that when I'm getting burned out, that's when I start maybe doubting, or when things just feel too beyond my control, or things that maybe I've even figured out before just seem super complicated and massive. So that's one for me.
Yeah.
What about you?
For me, when I get burnt out, I get unmotivated. I don't want to do anything. I just want to lay on the couch and zone out.
Yeah.
I want to stare at the wall and zone out. Basically, I just zone out and become
It's relatable.
extremely unproductive, which is not healthy or good.
Right.
And then if I'm working on something for hours upon hours and I'm just staring at the screen and my eyes hurt, I start to get restless. And like I just get stuck on little things that really I don't have to get stuck on and don't affect the overall
Yeah, it's good.
podcast itself.
Or anything. I mean,
Or
you
really
mix music
anything.
too.
Nothing. Yeah,
Yeah.
music too. I face that a lot with music. I will be stuck on one song, mixing it for hours and hours. And by the time I think it's good,
Yeah.
because I was frustrated, it sounds really bad and I got sloppy and skipped a whole bunch of stuff. And then I get angry or
Yeah.
short-tempered. Well, mainly just angry. And that's not healthy for anyone.
Yeah, I feel that.
Yeah.
What about you?
I noticed that whenever I get burned out, I get really discouraged because I mean, like a lot of what I do and what a lot of us here do on the media team, at least, it's kind of unseen. Like people, they don't really know what you do. They're like, oh, you do the Instagram
They're always
stuff.
asking what you're doing.
Yeah, or they're just like, what? Yeah, people just are always asking what you're doing, and you don't see those results. Like you don't see the people maybe worshiping at home because your
They have a
team,
sickness and you can't. Yeah.
yeah, and your team pulled together a really well done live stream, or sometimes they're rougher, but you don't see all of that stuff. You don't see the person on the other side of your screen, or even the people in church who are blessed by what you did. They have no idea that you are the one who put that together. You don't always hear the good feedback. A lot of times you hear when something goes wrong, you hear it, and then whenever things go right, people don't really come back and tell you. And it's like it can be so discouraging to not see the result of what you're doing.
Right.
Especially if you've poured so much of yourself into that.
Right.
And so it can kind of just feel like, what difference does it make?
Right. Right, exactly.
That's all. What about you, Michael? You got more?
Yeah. So oftentimes when I know that I'm feeling signs of burnout is when I start not treating people the best. To be honest.
Me too.
Like the things they do start to frustrate me. They kind of like, I don't always think the positive. I'm maybe more negative minded about their behavior or their actions, or I feel personally, not attacked, but just I take things a lot more personally. I start questioning like if other people are like what Natalie said, when you're feeling like alone and nobody really sees what you're doing, you can start like pointing fingers at other people and be like, oh, what are they really doing? And you start having a really poor attitude.
Yeah.
And when I start seeing that my fruits of the Spirit are over-ripened and starting to mold, that's when I know things aren't going right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the last thing that I was just thinking about too is like, whenever I get burned out, I get sick, like physically. That's the physical result of overworking myself. Like I just, it's not like I'm like, I don't want to speak words of illness over me, but it always seems like after we're done with a big thing like conference, I get sick afterwards. During our production in the fall, I was like, everyone got sick, for crying out loud, because everyone was just working so hard, so burned out. And that's just kind of the physical result of when you're not putting your mind in the place to get rest, or sometimes you're not taking care of yourself the way you should. Like you're not actually literally sleeping enough.
You're not drinking water, you're not eating, you're not taking your vitamins, all the things that
and so like the result of that will have a physical impact as well. Or like even just my eyes will start twitching.
Oh yeah.
From looking at the screen for so much, I'll just have like my eyelid.
I feel that one.
Yep.
So like those kinds of things that it's like, okay, I literally need a break from this because it's not going to go well if I don't.
Yeah.
And excess caffeine does not help.
Yeah.
Not at that point.
Not at that point.
And we even have a coffee shop, so
At that point, you're too far gone for it to work.
I'm so proud of Michael in this area because during our last conference, he only slept one night at the church
it's true.
instead of the whole week.
Call me out. But, hey,
I was like, yes, boundaries.
no, it's true. And that's honestly too, like in 2023, one of our team's personal goals, as when we talked about it, is that we want to be more organized, because as a result of being more organized, we can all be more effective. And even as a church, we're working on different things that we can include for every single ministry that help us stay more effective and more organized. So probably over the next few months, we'll maybe even share some of those tools that we've been using and let you know how they're working out and test drive them so you don't have to. And we can kind of give you guys some inspiration there.
Yeah.
But we want to talk about next, what does good rest look like? Because there, like Natalie said at the beginning, there are seasons of the year, of time, of any time you're serving and doing anything, whether it's work, whether it's ministry, whatever, that are going to be exhausting. These are going to be moments where you have to go above and beyond. But how do you take advantage of the times when you're not in those moments, or when you're in the midst of the crisis? What does this rest look like, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to start with the first one, Natalie?
Well, it's kind of what I was just talking about, but physical rest is so key. Give your eyes a break. If you have to, set yourself timers. And whenever you take a break, don't look at your phone. I'm the worst at this, honestly. Like, I'll be like, okay, I'm going to take a break from editing. And then I'd sit here looking at my phone. It's so not good. Like, even if it's just 10 minutes, take a walk
That's true.
outside. Or one thing that helps me is to even just be like working in a room with a window, because my main edit bay does not have a window. But sometimes I'll bring my work out to a different location, or I'll go to a coffee shop with big windows. Like those kinds of things can help. Give your ears a break. I don't know why I said that one. Probably it applies more
Actually,
to you.
yeah. That's I would say that's pretty fair, because once you've been hearing the same thing over and over again for 8 hours,
True.
what you what you perceive that you're hearing is probably not what you're hearing.
Sometimes for me too, I'm wearing headphones for so long that I just need to step outside and listen to like the air.
Yeah.
And like I can get kind of like addicted to music or addicted to my headphones, and in my head it helps me focus, but it's really just kind of draining my, subconscious.
And to
So
always
that's
just
important.
have like information floating into your brain is not great either.
Right.
Whether, whatever format that comes in.
It can be a lot.
Yeah, I
Right.
mean, for me personally, it's helped with like email notifications. I only have important ones show up on my phone. I don't have them
Yeah.
constantly barrage me. Or like on my Apple Watch, I only have text messages. So like when I need to look at my phone, I can look at my phone for emails, but the things that vibrate on my wrist all day are only the things that probably are the most important.
Yeah. And then also, I mean, if you're working on a computer like me, make sure that you are using, like, taking care of your hands. You don't want to be getting nerve issues, carpal tunnel, whatever,
Right.
stuff like that. So, like, if you, stretch, if you have to get an ergonomic keyboard, whatever it takes. For me, I have the bad habit of, like, leaning on my elbow while I'm typing. So not good for me. What did you just do?
He just cracked all in the bones.
Okay.
Cracked all my bones.
Great example.
But I have injuries not from editing. Not yet. Not yet.
But like just taking care of like your physical surroundings, get a chair where you can sit up straight, etc. Get fresh air, get sunlight. What's next?
Absolutely. Next one is spiritual rest. So this one is probably the most important on this list because just because you are working hard doesn't mean that you have to stop being saved or a Christian,
Right.
especially to other people. Nourishing your soul is so key. One of my personal goals this year is to not sacrifice prayer for the sake of work ever. Right? Like, I mean, obviously we should be doing that all the time, but there are seasons where it's busy and you can be like, okay, well, God's got me today. It's like, no.
And especially if you were here till like 10 p.m. working on something,
Right.
to get up in the morning and come to prayer and then start working.
That can be a struggle.
It's
Big time struggle.
weirdly difficult. It
Yes.
shouldn't be, but it really is.
Or for me personally, like after Sunday, exhausted, like so
Yeah.
wiped out. But that's the time when you need to press in even more.
Yeah.
Because that's when, I mean, you probably are the freshest about the things God has been saying.
True.
So it's the time when you kind of need to kick back and be like, okay, we're going back into this. Spend time, with your coffee, with your Bible. Just look for inspiration, pray for strength. All those things can be found right there. I mean, that's where the ultimate creator, we've talked about it before. The ultimate creator is God. And the more you can connect with him, the more you can connect to the true source of creativity. And like I was saying earlier, your problems just slowly start to shrink.
Yeah.
What about the next one, Elisha?
The next one, mental rest. So do something that takes your mind off what you've been working on for hours and hours. I think it really lines up with physical too.
Yeah.
Give yourself a rest away from the screen. Go walk the dog. That's what I do. Or go do something else,
Yeah,
and take a nap, honestly. Sleep,
honestly.
which is
the
a
vibe.
lot of us are sleep deprived in this field.
Yeah.
Most of us are, honestly.
I don't know what you're talking about.
For me too, it's like getting the endorphins going, like working out, or I like to
Yeah.
go rock climbing and things like that. They help get my mind off of something else. They make something a puzzle for me.
And would
something
it,
else.
would it really kill you to not have your phone for an hour while you're doing something?
Right.
Yeah. See, that's the difficult part, because it's like, okay, I could look at the instead of making entertainment, I shouldn't say entertainment in our area, but in a sense,
Right.
I can watch other people's stuff. You know what I mean? And it's easy to excuse it. Well, I'm just going to look at it so I can get ideas.
Yep.
Yeah.
When really I should be resting my eyes and my ears.
That's so good, because I've been so guilty of that too, where I'm like, I'm getting inspiration, but then I'm so mentally weak and tired that I start feeling like insecurity about how I'm not maybe creating as much as that other person that I'm watching, or like that their ideas are more creative than mine. And I'm like, that's really not the case at all. It's just you're exhausted and you just should sleep or do something else.
And at the same time, it begins to cut into that time that you should be resting.
Right.
And then starts to cut in the time that you should be working.
And something
So-
something I really like to do, and I know not everyone can do this, but on my day off, usually like twice a month or so, I try to go on a hike where there is no phone reception. And it's like, it's not all day, it's not forever, it's not like I'm leaving stuff undone, but it's like, okay, I've gotten my work done, I'm going to leave. And so I literally cannot be, attached to my phone. There will be no interruptions. When I come back down, I'll deal with any messages I get in the meantime.
Right.
But like something like that where it's like, got the fresh air, wasn't on my screen, stuff like that. And like, those are the best times to have conversations. I go with my brother usually and we'll just talk about like everything, and for all the stuff that's like not to do with my creative life that might be plugging up my creative life.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah,
No, that's so good.
I think that's pretty good.
And I think like before we move on to what it means to protect, like how do we protect this rest and this time, is that creative rest can often be fueled by doing something else that's creative. So whether
Yeah.
it's like, maybe it's painting or playing an instrument or doing something else. I know Natalie always, sometimes during the day, she'll be like, I'm going to go play the piano now. And she goes and plays the piano for like,
Yeah,
a
like
few
20 minutes or
Yeah.
whatever.
See, that's the funny thing, because for me, if I'm mixing music, it lines right up normally with what I'm doing. So it stings because when I start playing the guitar or just something else or in that area, I start to think about what I'm mixing. So, but like you said, yeah, I have to do something different.
Well, like
Paint,
Michael,
the house. No, I'm just kidding.
the house.
The house.
Yeah, that needs to be done. No.
Michael has a Lego obsession,
It's true.
which
has
we make fun
issues.
of, but also like I'm sure for him that's part of what that is it's like, okay, I get to make something with my hands instead of just clicking on the computer all the time.
And then you have the satisfaction of completing it.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of fun. And you can do it with other people, which I enjoy.
Right.
Yeah.
So true.
So protecting this creative rest is probably like the most vital thing to maintaining a healthy balance in your head. One of the things that I try to talk to our creative team about is that carving out one service per week that you are uninterrupted. Like at least, obviously you want more than this, but at minimum, like this is, you're not doing anything at this service. And obviously there's seasons, or like there's times when we have our conference where we're called to serve all the people that are coming to our conference. So we kind of set aside our own situation for that, right? But especially too is like I like to have at least 3 people who do everything, because we have 3 main services a week. And so is if you can be doing that thing once a week and once a week only, that's like ideal. Sometimes it's twice based on the week, whatever. But at least you always have somebody that can cover one of those days, And
Yeah.
there's different things that we do, right? Like if you're a camera person, you're actually in the service, or if you're, there's times where you're in the service and that's good, right? But then it's sometimes not the same as like sitting
Yeah.
down and paying attention and taking notes.
It's true.
Yeah.
And like you have to kind of fight for that. And I know like in a small church setting that's really difficult.
It's a challenge.
So I mean I respect that and I understand that. But what really kind of kept me afloat when I was in the small church was listening to like Tucson's sermons on the app
Yeah.
a lot, So it's like, okay, I don't always get to answer the altar call because I'm like running the slides or playing the piano or I'm helping a children's church. But
Right.
finding that way to get spiritual food. But if you're in a situation where you at all are able to sit in a service, even if that means you have to let someone run something who doesn't quite run it as well. Oh, that's a hard one. But like, yeah,
Yes.
sometimes you have to let go of things to take care of your spiritual life as well.
And I think the biggest thing too is that you can pray for this. Like it's something that we've talked about this before, but you can pray for these needs, and God does hear and God does listen to them. And maybe it's praying for a partner. God, I'm praying for a partner so we can alternate days.
Yeah.
Whatever that might be. But this kind of goes into is like you have to be persistent about it, right? Like on your phone, you can set like your do not disturb time where it's like, okay, I'm going to cut myself off at this time. I'm going to protect this,
Yeah.
This is my time with God. This is what I'm going to do for this, different things like that.
Well, and I think that's why it's so important to start off the day reading and praying.
Yeah, every day.
Not to say, oh, I'm getting it out of the way, but like that is the first thing that's in my mind and spirit in the morning, because
Yeah.
that can really dictate, the rest of your day.
Yeah, there's this
And,
epic song by Corey Asbury called I think it's Endless Hallelujah, and the first lyric of the song is like, in the morning when I rise to meet you, and it's like that's like my dream. Like, you know what I
Oh
mean,
my
where it's just
goodness.
like I wake up and that's what I'm thinking about. Like, that's where I'm there. He's the person I'm going to meet first, you know.
There's
every
one
day.
in Psalm where it says, "My soul waits for you more than those who watch for the morning." Like that hungriness. And
Yeah.
it's not always like I'm able to pray for 3 hours and like do an
Right.
intense Bible study or
Yeah.
whatever, but just kind of giving that firstness to
Right.
God and being like, okay, you direct my day for
That's
today.
good.
I don't know.
That's so good. And one of the things, this kind of ties into our goals for this year, but it's staying organized, being organized, so that when your time comes to have time off, you can enjoy that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you can rest in that time.
Not thinking,
So
oh, I have all this stuff and it's my time off and I got to do it when I get
Right.
back.
Exactly. Exactly.
So I have a question. We've talked about how this is all like good for ourselves, like our own brains and our own bodies to be restful. But I was thinking about, why is it actually biblical? Like, why is that a godly thing to do? Like, we've
That's so
talked
good.
about praying or whatever and like sleeping. Those are important things. But like, why is it literally biblical and godly to seek out rest?
Well,
Food for
Well,
thought.
I think it's an Elisha thought.
what do you think, Elisha?
The best ones.
Elisha,
Yes,
35, 40.
No, don't say that. No, no, I think it's important to take rest and to step away from what you're doing to
Yeah.
really help on, like, I guess the way what I'm trying to say is to make sure that you're not making your ministry your idol or your God.
Ooh, that's good.
And that's a
Facts.
lesser God in a sense, because it can become one where you're like, this is my identity and what I do, and this is this and that and that, and you know, you get to the point where it's like spiritual anorexia, and you know what I mean, and the only thing fueling you is your ministry, and that's really dangerous. I think that's why it's one of the most important things to step away and like kind of ask God, all right, where do you want me to go with this now? You know what I mean?
Am I still doing what you want me to?
Am I still in your will?
That's convicting. This kind of ties into a verse that we have here. It's Matthew 11:28, and the context of this scripture is John the Baptist and like Jesus coming, you know, at the beginning of his, you know, spiritual career, if you will.
Yeah.
But it's describing what a relationship with God is, right? And if a relationship with, like, our good works like don't bring us to God, right? That's very clear. Like it's faith.
Yeah.
But then as a result of this faith, works are birthed. And so a relationship with God is the first key element, but at the same time is that in the same way Jesus would always talk about like cultivating a relationship with God, but the result of that is serving others. And so that's kind of the context for the scripture is more of like that relationship with God. But what's cool inside of the scripture is it kind of shares what it looks like going forward. So come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you, learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. So, right, the context of that scripture is really talking about what it means to follow Jesus. But what's really beautiful is that it's if we maintain that relationship with Jesus, that yoke is easy and that burden is light, right? So it's talking about how it's going to guide us, it's going to keep us going forward. But we can always find rest inside of that. It's not saying like, you know, you're going to keep going and like, you know, you're going to be really tired and, you know, but I'm going to pick you back up. Like that does happen, right?
Yeah.
But that's an exception, not the rule, right? It's like when you're weary, when you're burdened, like he's helping lift that load. You know, and it's a part of that process. And I think it's something we can always reference and look forward to, is that God approves of rest.
Well, yeah, even
Yeah.
Jesus, you know, took time to rest. God took time to rest.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And he needed to take time alone too.
Yeah. It's like this is time for some alone time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Introvert Jesus.
Introvert. Well, I'm glad Jesus wasn't an introvert.
Facts.
And also like putting, you know, rest is biblical because it makes me think about the criteria. I think it's in like 2 Timothy for leaders in the church. And it says that like they need to have.
2 Timothy.
Oh, that's true. I've read that chapter many times. The whole book, both of the Timothys. I'm kind of
There's
obsessed.
two.
There's two of them. But I think it's in one of the Timothys. But it talks about the criteria for like people who are working in the church and stuff. And it's basically saying like have your personal life figured out, more or less. Like obviously you're never going to get there, but it's like make sure that you have like your family in line, that you have those kinds of things taken care of so that you can serve. And so it's like taking rest lets you prioritize things.
Ooh,
because
like
honestly,
cleaning your house.
Right. Like for me, a homemaker, I'm like, okay, I want like my dishes done. I want to cook my own food, like stuff like that. That's what I want to do. And I need to make sure that's in line. And like my relationships with people, that's so important to take times and to set that in line. Because honestly, I spend 40 hours a week working at least, you know.
Right.
And then on top of that, like I'm here for like regular church stuff that like I would be doing regardless. So it's like all of that. If I'm not careful, I spend more time like with my work, and I can let that take over my priorities.
Right.
Whereas that's ultimately like my work is going to change at some point in my life. Like I'm not going to just be doing this forever, probably. But what is going to, but like what is going to carry me through the rest of my life are like the relationships I built and the like character development God has worked in me. Like that kind of stuff. So important to take care of. My health. I keep saying that, but it's true.
Yes.
Excellent. And I mean, our ultimate creator, God, rested on the seventh day.
Yeah.
So
He set the precedent of catching some rest.
it's true. Catching some Z's.
And we are not better than God. So.
Facts.
Yeah, Natalie.
Whatever.
Wow.
Okay.
Of course we are not.
So
That's
to wrap
really-
this up,
Scared me for a minute.
stir this to conclusion.
Stir this to conclusion. I don't know why I found that so funny.
Confused.
Because it's hilarious.
We immersion
Shock
blended
humor.
this whole episode.
Okay. How does rest help you continue to be creative?
Ooh.
You got one to
All
start
right,
with?
we'll bounce back.
Yeah,
and
I got
forth
one.
on this.
I got one to start with.
Go ahead.
Well, I would say it gives you a better attitude. Being able to come back with a better attitude,
That's good.
it makes it easier to work with people, and hopefully, if they've rested, for them to work with you.
Yeah.
But I would say that that's a pretty integral part.
For me, it's gaining a fresh perspective, because sometimes coming back to it the next day, the problem's a lot smaller.
Yeah. No, it's true. And I think another great thing about having rest is it lets you it kind of like opens the door for more inspiration. Like I
Yeah.
can be most inspired sometimes when I'm just like having a conversation with someone, you know, someone that I don't talk to very often. You know, I just stuff like that.
You get cool ideas.
Yeah, or like
Yeah.
you go somewhere new and you're like, whoa, this is really cool. And I see this thing someone else did and that we could totally do that. Or it kind of opens the door for a lot of inspiration. And sometimes that's maybe not even always creative. Like I've been so refreshed by just having coffee with someone.
Yeah.
Things like that where it's like, okay, I didn't know that this doesn't literally help me be more creative, but like spiritually I feel revived. You know, stuff like that. Just making time for that.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh yeah, I feel like whenever I get the chance when I'm not working like down in Amado or Arivaca
Yeah.
or any of those places.
Southern Arizona.
Southern Arizona. For everyone that knows, sorry.
I did not know.
Deep South Arizona. I just if I'm able to go to my grandparents' house or something
Yeah.
like that, because they live in literally the middle of nowhere. It's very like relaxing to get out of suburbia. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
you kind of
exactly.
just like you're saying, the hike basically it helps.
Yeah.
It's just nice, and I'm like I'm free.
So for the real ones who've made it all the way to the end of this episode, let us know ways in the comments that you find creative rest. What is your inspiration for others? I think one of our biggest heart for this podcast and these episodes is creating a creative community. And so maybe you can meet people down there in the bottom, but share the ways that you find creative rest, the ways that you find creativity, the desire to create more things. Is it something that you find online? Is it something that you find in community? What is it? Just put it below. Let us know. And also, too, you can find the merch and information about it in the description below. Sleepy Hollow & Co.
Yeah.
Local business in McAllen, Texas. Our friend Ashley, who is a listener of our podcast, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay. And she's super awesome. These are fantastic. I think you'll really love them. So stay creative.
Get some rest.
Get some rest. Chill out. I think
Yep.
that's what we're going to call this episode.
Chill out.
Yeah.
The thumbnail will be the true testament of that. Relax. Hang out.
You are not defined
Yes.
by your ability to work and never sleep ceaselessly for a year
Till
straight.
the end of time.
You can survive on 4 hours of sleep and a ton of Red Bull.
Yes.
Doesn't mean you should,
Exception, not the rule.
though. Okay, we've been preaching to you this whole time. Do not do that.
Yeah, don't do that. Take care of yourself.
Okay. Stay creative, and we'll see you next time.
Stir it up!